So shall I begin us? Okay.
Yes, please.
So call to order. Welcome to the December 15th Environmental Quality Commission meeting. This is a teleconference meeting with Environmental Quality Commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating remotely to ensure proper social distancing in this federal, state, and local emergency. So let's do on to roll call. I'd like to introduce staff and EQC members present. Commissioner Elkins.
Present.
Commissioner Gaylord.
Present.
I don't think Commissioner Cabot is here at the moment. Okay. And Commissioner London may be joining us later, and Commissioner Price.
Present.
Okay, and staff present includes Rebecca Lucky, Sustainability Manager and Sustainability Contractor, and Candace Almondral. So I should have said Sustainability Contractor, Candace Almondral. Ms. Almondral, would you please provide instructions to the advisory body and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Vice Chair Evans.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Evans and members of the Environmental Quality Commission. Welcome everybody to the December 15th EQC meeting, and thank you so much for attending. At this time, we ask that the members of the EQC please remain on screen for the duration of the meeting. You will control your webcams and microphones. Staff will engage webcams and microphones to make presentations and respond to the members of the EQC. For members of the public who are in attendance and wish to provide a public comment, after the Vice Chair has called for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, please engage the raised hand feature. I will then have the ability to open your microphone so that you are able to provide your public comment to the EQC. For those members who are calling in from a landline or a cell phone, please dial *9 to raise your virtual hand. This concludes the instructions, and I return the meeting to you, Vice Chair Evans.
Thank you, Ms. Almondral. Okay, so under public comment, the public may address the advisory body on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the advisory body once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. The advisory body cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the advisory body cannot respond to non-agenda items brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Ms. Almondral, do we have any public comment at this time?
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Evans. We do not appear to have public comment. Just as a reminder for those who are in attendance and wish to provide public comment, please engage that raise hand feature now to provide public comment. There are no public comments at this time. I return the meeting to you, Vice Chair Evans.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to regular business then under D. So item D1 is to approve the November 17th 2021 Environmental Quality Commission meeting minutes. Are there any clarifying questions from the EQC before taking public comment on this item? And I'm looking, let's see, I see the screen with the agenda on it, but I can't see the windows with people's faces, so I can't see if anyone's raising their hand.
I don't see any hands raised, but that's helpful.
Thank you. Okay, now I can see people's windows. Okay, so then assuming there are no clarifying questions from the EQC, Ms. Almondral, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not. Just as a reminder, this is a public comment for item D1, approve the November 17th, 2021 Environmental Quality Commission meeting minutes. To provide public comment, please engage that raise hand feature. Last call for item D1. I return the meeting to you, Vice Chair Evans.
Okay, so then we open it up to EQC discussion about the minutes. Anyone have anything to share or want to make a motion?
I move to accept the minutes.
I second that motion.
Okay, thank you. So then, Ms. Almendral, do you want to, let's see, at this point then, do we take the roll call vote or do I have you restate it, Ms. Almendral?
I can restate the motion for you. So the motion on the floor presented by Commissioner Gellard is to approve the November 17th, 2021 commission meeting minutes, seconded by Commissioner Price. And now we will do a roll call vote.
Thank you.
Commissioner Elkins,
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
thank you. Vice Chair Evans,
Yes.
okay. Commissioner Gellard,
Yes.
Commissioner Cabot,
Yes.
Commissioner Price,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Okay. So on to item D2, which is consider ICLEI invitation to join the ICLEI 150 to receive additional technical climate action plan support, including establishing science-based targets and identifying high impact climate actions, excuse me. So actually, it's Ms. Lucky, would you like to introduce this a bit more and our presenter?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. Welcome, commissioners. It's my pleasure to introduce Kaylin Hart from ICLEI. So Kaylin Hart is a program officer with ICLEI, and she supports local governments in the U.S. Pacific, Northwest, and Southwest regions. She provides technical assistance to local governments for municipal and community greenhouse gas inventory that we currently use the ClearPath tool when we're measuring our greenhouse gas emissions. They also have tools around forest and tree inventory using the Land Emissions and Removals Navigator Learn tool. And she also supports communities in implementing nature-based solutions, circular economy solutions, and incorporating climate equity throughout the climate action planning process. And so tonight she's going to be bringing an invitation from ICLEI that cities are joining the Race to 150 and kind of being able to access some of the tools. We are currently members of ICLEI, and ICLEI's been around probably since I started my career in Morgan Hill on this. So they definitely keep track of kind of what's going on. And so just something to consider to access more tools. So with that, I'll hand it off to you, Ms. Hart. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Rebecca. And it's great to meet you all. And I'm excited to share our ICLEI 150 program and really more of a background about the Race to Zero. So I'm going to just share my screen. Great. And I just wanted to start off with one thing that we definitely have recognized with many of our different members is that a lot of cities have now set 2030 carbon neutrality goals. And so this presentation is in no way telling anyone, any city to reduce their goals or take on less ambitious goals. This is just to explain the Race to Zero and the ICLEI 150 and how you all can participate in the program. And so as I was mentioning, the Race to Zero is really a way for cities around the globe. It's really a global program to reduce emissions at least by half by 2030 and then reach net zero emissions by 2050. And local governments, again, globally, are really the essential push for reaching global goals, such as the Paris Agreement goals, to reduce our overall emissions. And so a little bit about the Race to Zero. The Race to Zero is actually a part of the UNFCCC program to get different parties, businesses, cities, different regions to reduce emissions and reach net zero by 2050, and also in ways to create healthy and resilient communities. And this program has been turned into as well as a cities Race to Zero. So a lot of times you'll see Race to Zero or you'll see Cities Race to Zero. They are the same program. The Cities Race to Zero is just taking a specific look at cities around the globe. And this program has been put together, and all of these partners that you see at the bottom are all supporting this same program. I think that our program, ICLEI 150, is a part of this Race to Zero. I don't want anyone to get confused on that. The ICLEI 150 is just the way that we're getting our members into the Race to Zero. And it's really a way to, again, to get cities to participate and reach the goals of the Paris Agreement, that 1.5 degrees Celsius target for 2050. And as you all are, it's a great opportunity to lead by example and be in the leaders circle with the UNFCCC, join many cities that are partaking in this Race to Zero to reduce their emissions, and really be a leader amongst other cities to kind of help show the way on reducing emissions. So yes, it's an invitation to go further and faster. So with the Race to Zero, the 5 main requirements for a city to join are: 1, to recognize that there is a climate emergency. So many cities have joined by having a resolution that declares, or a declaration of climate emergency, or have a goal for reaching carbon neutrality at least by 2050. And so many California cities will reach that first requirement. The second requirement to be a part of the Race to Zero is to pledge to reach net zero in the 2040s, basically by 2050 to reach that net zero goal. And the third, one of the third requirements are to set a science-based target for 2030 that has a 50% reduction in emissions with a fair share tacked onto that. So that's looking at high GDP countries versus low GDP countries, and countries with higher greenhouse gas emissions versus countries with lower greenhouse gas emissions. So countries with higher GDP and higher greenhouse gas emissions are expected to need to reduce their emissions well above that 50%. And then the fourth and fifth requirements of the city's Race to Zero are to proceed on at least one action, at least one target to actually get you to that 2030 target, that 2030 science-based target. So many cities that are already participating in the Race to Zero, many of them have a climate action plan, and a lot of the goals and objectives in that climate action plan already suffice for that fourth requirement. And then the fifth requirement is to publish that target and report on your progress towards reaching that target annually. And we'll get into a little bit of that reporting, which is typically done through the CDP ICLEI platform. And we'll get into that a bit in the rest of this presentation. And so now a bit about ICLEI 150. So as I mentioned a little bit before, is that the ICLEI 150 is really a movement across the US to get our ICLEI members. We have around 320 members across the nation now. And so it is a movement to get our members to join the Race to Zero and set that science-based target to to cut at least 50% and a little bit more by 2030, and then to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. And so as a part of this ICLEI 150 program and trying to get our members to join the Race to Zero, we thought that we didn't want to just, provide the Race to Zero to cities and just as another thing that you sign on to and agree to participate in. So we designed the ICLEI 150 to provide that technical support. So we calculate the science-based target for you, and then we develop high impact actions that we identify that would help the city reach that science-based target. And then we can develop a personalized support package for implementation of those strategies and those high impact actions, and then provide any technical assistance to proceed on an action. So the ICLEI 150 and the Race to Zero really started at the beginning of this year. And that is kind of when all of the cities were starting to sign on to the Race to Zero this year. But we, as long as Menlo Park is still a member and with all of our members, we will continue to provide that service and that technical assistance so you can reach that target all the way through your 2030 science-based target and into reaching carbon neutrality. So a little bit about the science-based targets. So the science-based targets, again, it's at least a 50% reduction by 2030 and a 2050 zero carbon goal to keep the global warming down to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And we've designed or we have taken on the OPCC, or the One Planet City Challenge. That calculation, that methodology to calculate the science-based targets is what we are using for our ICLEI members. And that is a calculation that looks at your population. So we're looking at an inventory that is between 2016 and 2019, specifically for Menlo Park. There was the 2017 inventory that we used. And the 2017 inventory, we look at the population from 2017 and what the expected population is going to be in 2030, and use that to calculate the science-based target, as well as the Human Development Index, which is taking into account the country's Human Development Index, as well, to account for the fair share between US countries versus other countries. So using that Human Development Index, a lot of our communities that we calculated the science-based target for had, of course, a reduction of 2030 science-based target that was above 50%. And we are really trying to get cities to take on these science-based targets, because it's very important to have the short-term goal so that you'll be able to, making sure that you'll be able to reach that carbon neutrality goal later on, which California's overall is to get to carbon neutrality by 2045. So it's important for these cities to have that 2030 goal to make sure that they are on track to reach carbon neutrality. And then another important aspect is that a lot of other short-term goals that we've seen in other climate action plans are not necessarily aligned with science-based targets and not aligned with reaching 1.5 degrees Celsius. I will say, however, I did take a look through Menlo Park's climate action plan, and with a 2030 carbon neutrality goal, you are well on to reaching helping to reach the 1.5 degrees Celsius. And so this is an overview, a picture of the science-based targets that we've calculated for our communities. And the way we calculated this was basically taking the inventories that we have in our ClearPath tool, again, between a 2016 and 2019 inventory year, and calculating the science-based target from whichever year was the latest that these cities had. And so with calculating this, what we've seen is the normal, the min to max, the range that we have of per capita science-based target reductions across our membership base was 62.8 to 63.4%, with the absolute science-based target or the overall target being a 45.2 to 64.4% reduction. And that really is taking into account the difference between cities' populations and their overall forecasted emissions to 2030. So after we calculate the science-based target, I mentioned that the next step that we were providing support was for the high impact action pathways. And so this is through renewable energy, building electrification for new and existing buildings, and then really getting at the transportation sector of greenhouse gas emissions and supporting that transition to electric vehicles and reducing VMT. But also on top of that, we also believe that that there needs to be a little bit of collaboration to create really systemic change to make healthier communities. And so we also are looking at ways to support waste and methane emission reduction, nature-based solutions, developing circular economies, and resilient cities. And so the overall, currently the overall high impact action pathways are looking at these 5 general categories of grid decarbonization, VMT reduction, vehicle electrification, building efficiency, and electrification. And so these are the 5 categories that we are looking at in terms of what that one action is that you would need to report when you're reporting annually to the CDP ICLEI platform on your progress to reaching your target. Typically, it's in one of these categories, and we also chose these categories because these are the ones that are going to be the most bang for your buck. This is really what is going to help you reach those science-based targets, or help you to reach that carbon neutrality the fastest. And this is a snapshot. I'm going to get into Menlo Park's report a little bit later, but this is a snapshot of the initial high impact action summary report that we send out to cities. So it takes a look at what their 2030 per capita and absolute targets are, and kind of explains what the overall emissions were. And again, I did want to also point out that this science-based target is looking at the scope 1 and scope 2 emissions. That is how the OPCC methodology is designed. So it's looking mainly at that scope 1 and scope 2. So looking at those emissions, what your reductions should be by 2030. And again, this around 60% is really the minimum in order to participate in the Race to Zero, and the minimum to get cities to help the overall global effort to reach, so limit global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. And so this report is looking at the overall, the main sectors of emissions. So this chart on the left here is looking at those main sectors. So we're looking at the residential, commercial, and industrial sector, and then the on-road transportation sector. And so we look at your inventory, determine what your largest sectors are, and we do a business as usual forecast to see what those emissions would be by 2030. And then what those emissions would need to be reduced to in order to reach that 2030 target. And then on the right is the high impact action overview, which looks at those 5 categories I had mentioned previously on what your city will need to implement in order to reach that target. And so these are grid decarbonization goals. You see this on the screen is a 80% reduction in carbon intensity, following along with a clean energy standard. And then also a high impact action for VMT reduction, electric vehicle adoption, and commercial and residential building electrification and efficiency. And the building electrification is really electrification and efficiency is looking at what percentage of existing buildings you will need to have electrified by 2030, and then how many new buildings would need to be electrified. Typically, all new buildings would need to be electrified, which I also was reading in the Menlo Park CAP that has already been adopted. So the new buildings would need to be all resident electrified, and then determining what percentage of existing buildings would need to be electrified in order to reach that target. And then the high impact action summary report would also provide you with a graphic that also will help you to kind of showcase, what your baseline emissions are. Again, in this scenario, the baseline is that 2017. It's not going back further than that. So really looking at what current emissions, the 2017 was the most current that we had for Menlo Park. So we have this graphic that will show what your baseline emissions are, what your 2030 business as usual would be, and then what your emissions would be after you implement the high impact actions. And then if you see the chart on the top, will also tell you, if you implement all of these actions, how much do you have left to go in order to reach that target? So say you had a 60% reduction by 2030, it'll tell you how much left you have to go. In this example, it's showing that you have actually met and exceeded that target over 7.7%. So you have reached target and you have gone a little bit further. So the high impact action summary report will show that as well. And I did want to just mention that, we are also, what we do is we, as I mentioned, we calculated this science-based target and high impact action summary report for all of our communities that have an inventory in ClearPath between 2016 and 2019. But once you sign on to the ICLEI 150, then we can kind of go in and edit that and change it. So if we wanted to change this, rather than modeling a 60% reduction by 2030, if we wanted to model a 100% reduction by 2030, we could do that as well. Another important part is that, as I mentioned, the OPCC methodology is only looking at scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, but we have worked with WWF. WWF is they are the ones that authored the OPCC methodology. So we worked with WWF as well as ICLEI's really our headquarters, which is in Germany. We worked with our headquarters to develop a methodology that will also take into account scope 3 emissions. So if that's something that you would also be interested in, we could also kind of go into our calculator and model the 2030 target, including the scope 3 emissions. And I wanted to just mention, alongside the, once, if you were to sign on to the ICLEI 150 and we were to curate your high impact action summary, that is a part of the technical assistance that we can provide, but also our tech teams, our tech team, they're a great group of people who have put together the calculator. They put together the ClearPath tool. They put together this calculator for the 2030 targets. And they are also putting together resource guides to kind of help communities implement different strategies to reach that 2030 target. And then also we will be doing some webinars specific for Californians, California cities, in order to reach their targets and how they can work with utilities or work with state governments and how to really implement these actions in order to reach your goals. And so that is actually going to be coming up in the new year. And I believe the California one is going to be in partnership with, it's a Pacific webinar, and that one will be starting in February. So that is going to be available to you if you were to sign on to the ICLEI 150. And the next stage is getting into reporting. So as I mentioned, though, there were those five categories that were, or five requirements for joining the ICLEI the Race to Zero. And one of those is reporting. So you will have to report your target and report basically your climate action plan actions through the CDP-ICLEI platform on an annual basis. And as I mentioned, this program did start this year, but they are not requiring cities to report until next year in 2022. And then if you have not reported yet, and I don't believe Menlo Park has reported to CDP-ICLEI before, but if you have not, no worries. The CDP team does put on regular webinars in the beginning of the years. Each year, they'll put on webinars for new cities that are new to the platform and really kind of walk them through the reporting and ensure that you are making sure that you are reporting everything that would be required for the Race to Zero. And this is just a little bit about the CDP-ICLEI platform. And CDP is our partner. They're also one of our partners in this Cities Race to Zero initiative. And they host this reporting system on their website in order to help to showcase what other cities that have reported to this platform, showcase what they have reported as their emissions, what they've reported as their actions, how they're reaching these goals. And so this is a really great place for cities to kind of get insights into what other cities are doing, what other actions they could incorporate as well. And I don't believe we have 2021 metrics yet, but in 2020, there were over 800 cities around the world that also reported to the CDP-ICLEI platform. So it is a great platform in order for you to kind of track progress as reaching your target as well. I think I'm getting into the last few slides here. So another really important aspect of the ICLEI 150 program is recognition as one of the leaders in reducing emissions and joining the Race to Zero to really get cities in line with the Paris Agreement and reducing global warming below 1.5 degrees. So this year, the main recognition that cities got in order from joining the ICLEI 150 and joining the Race to Zero was a call out at the COP26 event. And so, as I mentioned, this is a program that the UNFCCC has put together. So the UNFCCC Climate Champions may be doing more potential media opportunities for Menlo Park to also be a part of. And then obviously ICLEI, we also will be supporting and providing different type of communication support and press releases and social releases for cities that join the ICLEI 150. And so this is just a snapshot of Menlo Park's science-based target that we have calculated, as well as the high impact actions that we have put together. So a 61.4% absolute target by 2030. That is the overall target that we, using that science-based target methodology, what we have developed for Menlo Park. And again, this is the minimum target that you need to reach by 2030 in order to be aligned with the Paris Agreement. Having a carbon neutrality goal by 2030 just puts you above and beyond. So we definitely encourage that, and we're working with other cities who also have a 2030 target. 2030 carbon neutrality target to help them reach that goal. And as you can see on the right, this would be looking at if you were to follow the 61.4% reduction by 2030, this would be looking at clean energy standard, which is 80% reduction in carbon intensity by 2030, looking at a 10% VMT reduction, 6% annual growth in electric vehicles, which is what we have as the business as usual. What California is currently at now is at 6%. It may be a little bit different for your community. And if you join on to the 150, we can definitely play around with these numbers. We can take a look at what 9% electric vehicle adoption looks like and how that affects your emissions reductions. And then along with commercial and residential electrification and efficiency, this is also looking at what your, for efficiency, what percentage of new buildings would need to have efficient building efficiency. The EUI standard is what we're using. And I see that this document's a little bit outdated. It's 37% EUI is what we are using. And then 5% of buildings for residential would need to be renovated to reach that EUI, and then obviously electrification. All new commercial buildings would need to be electrified, with 11% of existing buildings electrified, and then with residential, at least 5% of existing buildings would need to be electrified. And again, this is to reach that 2030 science-based target of 61.4%. But if we can go in and change this to say, if you had 2030 carbon neutrality, what it would look like for Menlo Park. And other cities have done similar kind of assessments as to how much VMT reduction they'll need, or how much electric vehicle adoption they'll need to get to their target. And a lot of cities really used our high impact action kind of as a collaboration, so that they can tell their community that it's not just us, it's not just us that are trying to reach these targets. Here, this is a third party's assessment of how we need to reach a 2030 target in order to be aligned with the Paris Agreement. So that's what many cities have done as well. They've done their own calculations, but they just used ours as another way to kind of reinforce their own goals. And this, I believe, is, so this is my, almost there at the end. So this is my, this is a list of California cities that are a part of the Race to Zero. On the left here, I have all of the Bay Area cities that are part of the Race to Zero. And then on the right are just other California cities that have joined. And we are also working with a number of these communities. San Jose is a part of the race, the ICLEI 150. And they are actually one of the cities who they just, I think it was like just a couple of weeks ago, where their council has adopted a 2030 carbon neutrality goal. So we are working with them to kind of go through the high impact action scenario with that carbon neutrality by 2030 goal. So many California cities are participating in this, and this is just California. There's multiple cities outside of California. We have a whole group of communities in Florida, per se, who are doing this, participating in this same program to reach reach the science-based targets in 2030. And so this is my last slide. My last slide is really just how you can kind of get started. Typically, there's a council resolution to join the ICLEI 150, and we have sent over to the staff some examples of what those resolutions have looked like. And committing to the ICLEI 150, there is a commitment form that's on the right side of the screen that basically says that you would join. And then what we can do, since we've already calculated the science-based target for you, we can go through and review that inventory, that 2017 inventory, to make sure everything is correct, and then recalculate the science-based target, and then also kind of calculate that to see what it would look like if you were to reach carbon neutrality by 2030. And then we can set up meetings to further customize that high impact action scenario. And that was it for my presentation, and I will pass it back on over to Candace.
Candace, are you there?
Yeah,
Sorry, I apologize.
No, it's
I'll defer to
okay.
Ms. Lucky.
yeah, thank you, Ms. Hart, for your presentation. I think at this point, if there's any clarifying questions, and then a public comment before the EQC gets into discussion. And I'll hand it back to Vice Chair Evans.
Okay. Can I get back on the screen so I can see?
Sure.
Thank you. There we go. Did it? Okay. I don't know what order they came in. So we'll go with, I see two hands, Commissioner Gaylord and Commissioner Cabot. Commissioner Gaylord, would you like to begin with your question?
Sure. Clarifying question. Thank you, Ms. Hart, for your presentation. Is there any sort of financial payment required to be a part of the program?
No, this is completely free to all of our ICLEI members.
Okay. Another clarifying question, and we may discuss this later in our kind of deliberations, but is there, for cities like San Jose and Menlo Park and others that have set a carbon neutrality goal by 2030, is there any discussion about having like even a smaller group that's going faster than the overall group, like a smaller subset?
Yeah, so that's definitely something that we do as a part of just our ICLEI membership, is we connect our communities that are working on similar goals. So that's definitely something that we can, because we have San Jose, and then we have a few of our communities like in Arizona who also have a 2030 carbon neutrality goal. So definitely something we can bring you all together to discuss how we're going to reach these goals.
Thank you.
I was curious about what the 150 means in ICLEI 150.
Yes, so that is our target to get 150 of our ICLEI members to join the race to zero between now and 2030. So
okay, thank you. And then I'm interested to hear staff's thoughts on this when staff feels it's the right time, whether that's in clarifying question time or before the commission starts deliberating.
Thank you, Commissioner Cabot. I think that might be best when the discussion occurs. I could lead it off from our perspective after public comment. I think you're on mute.
Apologies. Thank you. Any other questions before we move to public comment? Okay, and I meant to say too, thank you, Kaylin, for walking us through all of that. It was extremely informative, and we appreciate it very much. So, Ms. Almendrall, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not appear to have public comment at the moment. Just as a reminder, this is a call for public comment on item D2. Consider ICLEI's invitation to join ICLEI 150 to receive additional technical climate action plan support, including establishing science-based targets and identifying high-impact climate actions. And just as a reminder, for those in attendance who would like to give public comment, please engage that raised hand feature now. Last call for public comments on item D2. There are no public comments. I return the meeting to you, Vice Chair Evans.
Okay, so we can open up to EQC discussion here. Anyone want to go first? Okay, Commissioner Gaylord. No, excuse me, Commissioner Cabot.
Thank you. So I was wondering how staff views this opportunity and whether it looks like it's something they can take advantage of, or does it look like more reporting effort? You know, I know you've got your hands full with the ambitious climate plan we've put together, but it seems like there's some upsides to being able to work with ICLEI and share results back and forth and maybe find other cities doing things. But you know, I'm just interested to hear staff's perspective on how this looks to them, whether it's a benefit in our work or whether it has more burden.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Cabot. Yeah, so I did explore kind of what the reporting requirements were on that, because, you know, as you know, we want to be careful about how much time that we spend, you know, reporting and collecting data versus getting to the strategies and implementing the strategies. And in the past, CDP has asked us for information, but it hasn't always been aligned with our inventory. So my understanding through this program is that once we complete an inventory, there's a way to push a button that automatically uploads all of the information into CDP, which we didn't have that before. And so that kind of made it a little bit more challenging to complete. So I think that part kind of settles our kind of thoughts around like the extra resources needed to report. I think there is a pretty good benefit in just to having another kind of piece of evidence that reinforces our current cap, that we are on the right path. And we can also use it to educate the community as well. Like, we're not the only ones who are seeking out these strategies. Having, you know, the science-based targets and learning more about how that also evolves as far as what's going on, you know, in the state with our country, and just kind of how that all plays down at the local level, and, you know, what local governments, you know, can be responsible for and leverage. So I think all of those things lend itself to a benefit. It doesn't cost an additional amount. And it's not something that we necessarily have to completely learn the ins and outs. If ICLEI staff is able to kind of help us understand like what information they need to put into it, I think that's a really good relationship to move forward and take what we currently measure in our inventory a step further, as showing kind of how these things are connected and being able to storytell. You're on mute again, Vice Chair Evans.
Thank you. Oh, I was just saying that I have some thoughts, but I'm gonna let others go first. Commissioner Elkins, I see your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I was just going to say that I feel like that is a major benefit of this program, the ability to show to the Menlo Park public that we're not doing something that's completely off the wall, that this is an initiative that's being done by cities all over the country as well as the world, and to be able to compare data with other cities would be really valuable, I think, from a public relations point of view. And then the more that we can get the public behind us in general, the easier everything else is going to be.
Thank you, Commissioner Elkins. Commissioner Gaylord?
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment that, being a part of a group, a larger group, I think signals to the public that, that this is, we're not alone. So I think that's good. My concern, and actually, Ms. Hart, could you give me a rough estimate of per year with the annual reporting, like how many hours would a city put into that? Is it 2 or 20 or 200, or do you have a sense?
Yeah, typically, so the CDP ICLEI unified platform is actually going under some changes right now because we've had multiple of our cities kind of complain about the time that it takes. And so typically it's taken cities anywhere between 2 to 5 hours to complete, which they sometimes have found was not beneficial. And so what CDP has been doing this year is going through to reduce that time. So I don't have an estimate on how long it'll be in the new, with the new platform and the new amount of questions. But I know that they have significantly reduced the questions. I think it's around like 70% of the questions that they have taken off of that platform. So to make the burden, ease the burden on cities. But yeah, I don't have an exact estimate on how long for the new questionnaire for next year.
Okay, that's helpful. So the major concern I have is that, for Menlo Park, for the science-based targets that you put up would be a significant step back. And I understand that it's a minimum. But I was also kind of getting the feeling as we were hearing the presentation that, a lot of the language is around the science-based targets, which overall would be lower. And so even as I was listening, I was like, oh, interesting. Because I've looked at other cities, and the actions that you need to take to hit 0 by 2030 are very, very different from the actions that someone would have to take to get to 50 by 2030. Like the way you go about it, the policies you would have to pass are quite different. Like there's a natural attrition if you're going for swapping your entire building stock by 2050, sort of a natural attrition. There's you can't do that if you're trying to get to 2030 carbon neutrality. So it's like a different mindset and a different set of policies. And so I just wonder, I know it sounds like you can customize the goals, but I just wonder if we're joining a group that sort of generally, I almost feel like we put Menlo Park on with our goal in like the fast lane. And if we wouldn't be sort of opting from the fast lane to the slower lane, and it's not the slowest lane, right? And for other cities that are going from the slow lane or a full stop into this lane, it feels like really fast. But for us, it might feel like joining a group where they're kind of going slower and talking about policies that wouldn't get us to our target. That's why I was asking about the subset where, so for example, with San Jose, they passed that resolution, and in the local Mercury News, it was mentioned that Menlo Park was one of the cities that San Jose was following, meaning we had sort of set the leadership position there. So, it'd be great to have other cities that are kind of with the same goal, but again, kind of being in a group with cities with a slower goal, I'm just concerned that we wouldn't get as much out of it. Like we might end up being the ones sharing a lot that's helpful for other people, and that could be valuable too. But I don't know, I'm curious about what other people think.
Okay, I have thoughts on that, but I'm looking to see if there's any other hands. I think it sounds like there already are a bunch, San Jose included, a bunch of other cities that have the 0 to by 2030 goal included in your ICLEI agreements, Kaylin. And I guess my thinking is that by adding our name, we bolster this work overall and show that yes, this work is important. And you know, by saying that we're going to do it and we're going to go faster, I think we encourage other cities to join who are going faster. And maybe cities who are not going faster, who have already joined, they might want to speed up and go with our precedent. I guess I don't necessarily see it as a label that would create downside for us. I feel like it could only help other cities set important, more progressive targets. Kaylin, I mean, I guess on your website or in other presentation materials or social media, do you anticipate sort of having a separate visual category, if you will, where cities that are going faster, like Menlo Park and San Jose, might be in a separate column, if you will, so that the global public can see that, you know, we've signed on to this global initiative, and here's the group of people who are capable of and wanting to go faster, and we're not just sort of lumped in with everyone else optically.
Yeah, and I do know that we do often post things like this on our ICLEI LinkedIn and on our other socials, and we do have a tracker on our website that's looking at all the cities that have joined the ICLEI 150. Right now, it doesn't have any. It doesn't call out specific cities, but that's something that we can definitely upload onto the website and to better showcase, you know, what cities are participating and what different targets are. I think that another important place where you could also see that is our partner CDP. They also will post at the end of every year, they do like I think it's called the A+ list, where they post cities that are really going above and beyond as well. So I think there's multiple places where you could get that support from us and from our partner.
And Commissioner Cabot, thank you, Kaylin. Commissioner Cabot, I see your hand up. I'm curious, though, before we go to you, if Commissioner Gaylord, if that eases some of your concerns about the optics of Menlo Park being lumped in with cities that are going much more slowly.
Yeah, for me, it's less about the optics and more about the, you know, if some of the value would be like attending a webinar with other cities that are going slower, you know, like if another city says like, here's what we're doing, and we look at that and we're like, well, we can't really do that because that wouldn't get us to our goal in time. I'm just wondering like whether that would, it seems like that wouldn't be valuable. And in fact, if staff was then tempted to enact that policy, we'd be essentially like de facto watering down our goal. That's my concern. It's more like who you surround yourself is kind of what you're gonna become more like those cities. And it's so I feel concerned about that, less about the optics.
Okay. Commissioner Cabot?
Thank you. Yeah, for me also, it is about the policies, not about the optics or being on a list. But there could be opportunity by convening those cities that are trying to meet the net zero by 2030 type target. Because as Commissioner Gaylord said, there is a different set of policies you need to be following to get to that target that involves things like, for example, replace on burnout or other things, as opposed to just the normal or laissez-faire, hope for voluntary participation, maybe a miracle occurs, that kind of hope that has gone on and got us to where we are so far across America. And, you know, it's not been enough. So we need to be working with other cities that we can collaborate with, who are looking at those kind of rapid policies that preserve our best future. So I'm thinking that well, I want to hear more about how staff sees they can use this opportunity to advance our progress.
I was just going to say too, and then maybe we can hear from staff a response to the question that Commissioner Cabot just asked, but the tools themselves, staff, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. The tools themselves feel like they could be valuable to us as we, showcase to our community, here are the things that we need to do. It would be really nice, as Kaylin articulated, to have a reputable third party saying, yes, if you want to do 100% reduction by 2030, here's what you need to do. It's not just the building electrification subcommittee saying that we need to electrify this many buildings. There's another source that's validating our numbers and our process. But staff, I'm curious what you think about that and what Commissioner Cabot just raised.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair Evans and Commissioner Cabot. I would echo what you're saying, Commissioner Evans, on that front. The tools are really valuable, and they have the connection to our greenhouse gas inventory. I'm not, so our goal will still stand. I think there's this kind of part of us that we want to lead. We've said that a few times, where we want to showcase that leadership, and joining this and being another member that is going for carbon neutrality by 2030 could potentially encourage other cities. And the more that we kind of surround ourselves with that encouragement, we can get around regional kind of policies that move forward, that help get mandates across the line, because we're not necessarily the only city that's doing that, because there's other cities who are trying to race to zero by 2030. And so in that way, you can start to kind of form the bond that's needed to kind of go out there together, leverage each other's resources as well, and kind of get to a place where you can move forward. So the tools are valuable. When I took a look at the high impact analysis, I thought that they were just very well connected to what we're doing, and provide that additional reinforcement to talk to the community, to talk to council members and others on why building electrification is so important, why we need to look at existing buildings and not just new buildings, as well as not forgetting all the other aspects of other emissions that we have in the community that we have leverage over as well. And I think, Ms. Hart can correct me if I'm wrong, but it is a new program, so it is growing. And I think, again, the more that join, there is more resources and tools that grow out of that to help cities achieve what they're seeking together.
Thank you, Ms. Lucky. Kaylin, question for you. So I know, Commissioner Gaylord was saying, if we were to attend webinars where most of the other participants were working on very different kinds of policies because they're going more slowly. The webinars, I would imagine, are optional. Like, we could pick and choose what the city of Menlo Park feels we will benefit from and select those webinars or not. Especially since there's no cost other than staff time to fill out the reporting. It feels like I see a lot of upside, but I wanted to clarify that, Kaylin. Oh, you're muted, I believe.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, so you will be definitely, all of the webinars are all optional. You do not have to attend them. You'll be able to choose which ones you want to go to. And then also, I think that another important thing is that in these webinars, so we've done them for other regions. So like I mentioned, Florida, we've done that for Florida. I think we've also done one for the Pacific Northwest as well. So in those calls, what we often do is kind of also look at the broader statewide goals. And so we kind of take a look at the statewide goals and kind of see how each city kind of fits into reaching these goals for the state. So I think that it would be beneficial, to go to that one at least, and then you can pick and choose which other ones you would like to go to see. And then, yes, I think the other thing I was just gonna say that, yes, it's completely free to join this program. It's completely free to report to the CDP ICLEI platform as well.
Thank you. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'd love to hear from Commissioner Price if you have any thoughts on the back and forth of this, and Commissioner Elkins as well, if you have thoughts on it as well. If you don't, that's okay.
I can, thank you. I think that there are always questions about anytime you're talking about utilizing, staff time and resources. And I think that this challenge around climate change is a incredible challenge. And as GOC said, we worked hard to create the plan to address climate change and reach a carbon neutral goal of 2030. Knowing that that's not necessarily what others may be signing up for when they're signing up for joining this organization. I think I can see where there would be sort of tension across those lines, but I tend to agree that I think it sounds like there's a lot of flexibility in how we could apply joining, if Menlo Park were to sign up, how Menlo Park could adopt this sort of standard package to meet our specific goals and needs. And I think that if there is a benefit in terms of staff's ability to streamline reporting, which it sounded like there was a benefit there, I think that could be worth it. And it doesn't seem like it's detracting very much from anything that we would do. So I think as long as we think the time invested by staff and anything needed to get this through council's agenda, if the benefits we get from being a part of it outweigh that cost, then I don't see a reason why I wouldn't be supportive of it, even though I understand the tensions.
Thank you. Commissioner Elkins, did you?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I just wanted to sort of reiterate that I don't really see a downside to it, as since Rebecca has specifically said that she thinks that the tools will be useful to take advantage of, that we have said that we want to influence other cities as part of our goals in all of this, and this is definitely sounds like a good way to do that, especially if we're out ahead. And as Kaylin has said, we don't have to do anything that is going to drag us down. Don't have to attend webinars that are not going to be useful to us. I don't see a downside. So those are my thoughts.
Commissioner Gaylord?
Yeah, Ms. Hart, is it possible is most of the information would be coming from ICLEI, like a webinar or whatever? Would it be coming from ICLEI, or is it possible to structure them so that cities are sharing with each other? So for example, if another city that has a 20 by 30 target, like I know Ithaca looks like they've set one, Ithaca, New York, where those who have set these targets are sharing with each other, or would it mostly be coming from ICLEI to the members?
Yeah, so we like to encourage our cities to really collaborate with each other and really speak with each other. So on these webinars, we've done some in the past and different cohorts in the past, and we always will set aside that time for the communities to be able to discuss with each other, whether that be in a breakout room or something like that. So we always do provide that ability to speak with other cities. And then we also, our technical team is really the ones who put these webinars on, and they always bring people from different organizations to kind of speak as well and speak with the cities and have that discussion with the cities as well. So we definitely have heard from our members that being able to just speak directly with other cities is very beneficial. And so that's what we incorporate into our webinars.
Because there's a version of that that's happening within the county, like all the cities in the county, the sustainability managers and others get together once a month. And, Half Moon Bay presented, Rebecca presented on, Half Moon Bay was working on electrification policies. So there's already that kind of happening at the county level with cities that are setting aggressive targets. So yeah, I guess I'm struggling with, one of the things about the presentation I noticed, and I'm not wanting to sound critical, but it wasn't tailored to our specific goal. So that just made me wonder, like, oh, interesting, going forward, would that continue to be the case, that it's sort of much more general, right? And just not that applicable to our case. So I think if coming in, if the presentation had been tailored to our goal, I think my sense would have been like, oh, this is very responsive. And but I understand that maybe, just prior to this presentation, if you didn't know that we were on board, that maybe there wasn't the opportunity to put that into it. So.
Yeah, and Commissioner Gellert, I'm sorry, just to jump in, but yeah, that was something that I wanted to see as well, but we need to sign up for the race in order to get all of the other aspects. And so that was, also part of it is wanting to kind of see what that would look like with our goal in there, with, population numbers, growth populations that reflect what we're thinking. They're using like a general approach, but I think the more that we can drill down into that was, that is, piqued my interest as well. So we have to sign up to get to that point, but we could certainly come back and show the results should the council move forward with it.
Commissioner Cabot, I see your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Hart, back on slide 7 of your presentation, there's the pledge is mentioned. And, maybe the thing that I'm interested in is if the pledge can be for more what our target is, which is to reach carbon neutrality by 2030. And so essentially trying not to confuse the public or the council with restating different numeric goals across different timeframes. So, to me, it looks like it'd be beneficial, from what I'm hearing from staff, to be able to join up with ICLEI and the effort. But for me, I also want to keep clarity for the community and decision makers that we're not altering the climate action plan that they adopted, that we're still on that plan, and that we pledge to work toward it, but it's just a different number than what is in the pledge on slide 7.
Yeah. So that pledge is again, that's just, for the minimum for the race to zero, is that they're just asking you to have at least a 2040, 2045 carbon neutrality goal. But if you have a 2030 carbon neutrality goal, that's enough for them. That's more than enough for joining the race to zero. So if you have like your carbon neutrality resolution or something that is calling out carbon neutrality by 2030, that will work.
Could we see that, like the resolution that the city would be asked to sign? Because I just want to, like, again, if it says at least 50%, that's one thing. But if it says 50%, then I would be concerned about what Tom just said, which is council and community becoming confused about what our goal is.
Yeah, I think we could bring that back to the EQC. Just, I don't see anything that would be potentially time sensitive on it. So I think that's doable. There isn't anything time sensitive, Ms. Hart, is there? It's just,
no.
All right.
No.
But actually, I was wanting to actually physically look at that slide 7, or had to have Ms. Hart tell us, does the language say 50% by 2030, or does it say a minimum of 50% by 2030?
So if you're thinking of your own resolution, you're able to put into your own resolution whatever carbon neutrality it is.
I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah.
Thank you for
the-
clarifying that.
Mhm.
Okay, got it.
So then that could be, if we were to move forward with this, our recommendation from the EQC to council could be that the resolution be crafted accordingly, right, to what you're saying, Commissioner Gaylord. Commissioner Cabot?
Thank you. Yeah, so that is answering the question I had. It sounds like staff could be drafting the pledge for Menlo Park to reflect the already adopted climate action plan goals. And so there would be no confusion. And then staff would work with ICLEI to produce those interim reports that show how we're tracking to the adopted goal already.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and as Rebecca had mentioned, the ClearPath tool is already the tool that the staff uses to conduct the inventories, and in there is also where we provide support and can help to support updating the inventories and tracking and monitoring of the mitigation measures.
Sorry, one more question. Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
This is a little bit of a pressure test, I guess, question. Ms. Hart, and the policies, like the big actions, or you had a name for it, but is one of them passing a policy that prohibits new gas appliances from being installed in existing buildings? Like, is that one that's among the mix?
So that's something that can be a part of, say, the residential or commercial electrification is, implementing a action that prevents new gas lines to be put in there. So the five, and however you look at it, categories that I gave are like the overall categories, and then you can have different measures be growing into those categories. So that new buildings will be built with no pipelines. That can be a part of.
Yeah, that's not the measure, but so I want to, sorry to drill down on this a little bit more, but that's not the measure I meant. I meant for existing buildings, not new buildings. So for existing buildings, not no more new gas lines, because they already have gas lines, no more new gas equipment, like no more new gas furnace, no more new gas water heater. Like, is that a measure that would be a menu on the menu that is on the menu?
Yeah, that can be on the menu. Yes.
Okay, but that is a choice. That's like a toggle that someone could check and say, put that in.
It's what you all would choose. Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else have their hand raised? Okay. Are we then, Commissioners Gaylord and Cabot, tell me if I'm moving too quickly, but are we, it seems like we're starting to circle around a potential motion that could involve signing this, but making sure that any resolution that the city council adopts be very clear that our targets will remain and will not, that our target will remain and don't get watered down.
Yeah, I guess if I could, I'd love to throw in there that our council requests that ICLEI put together like a smaller circle for those who commit to 20 by 30, and that we be a part of that. Whether ICLEI does it, I don't know, but I would love it if our council would request that of them.
That seems to make sense to me. Okay. Anyone else? Would anyone like to throw out a potential drafting of this motion? So there's the three pieces are recommending that we move forward and sign, but that the resolution make very clear what our climate goals are, and that this is not intended to take our goals back to, anywhere towards 0 by 2050, and that council request that ICLE form a subgroup of folks like Menlo Park and San Jose who have more progressive targets. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Lecky and Ms. Almondral, do I need to?
So just clarification, Vice Chair Evans, are you making that motion?
Yes.
So you
Therefore I
made a
am. I
motion
didn't
that you-
articulate it as smoothly as I would have liked to have, but yes, those are the 3 points.
Okay.
So
So Evans has made a motion to recommending that the commission, recommending that the city join ICLE's race to 150, but making it clear that the 2030 carbon neutral goal will be maintained, and further recommending city council encourage ICLE to create a subgroup of cities that are pursuing a 2030 carbon neutral goal.
I think it's a race to 0.
Sorry, race to
yes, and in the second point, I think just making sure that our 0 by 2030, that's actually included in the council's resolution. Making sure it's in that document, if you don't mind adding that phrase in there. And then Commissioner Gaylord.
Oh, I just had one potential friendly amendment. Instead of the word encourage, could we change it to request?
That
and the city council requests creating a subgroup of cities that have a 2030 carbon neutral goal.
Yep. If that's acceptable to Vice Chair Evans.
Absolutely.
So again, this motion was stated by Vice Chair Evans.
And would anyone like to second it?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Elkins. So roll call vote. Commissioner Elkins.
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Chair Evans.
Yes.
Commissioner Gellert.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Cabot.
Yes.
Commissioner Price.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And is Kaylin still there?
Yes.
Thank you again for
Yes.
your presentation and for your patience with all of our questions. We really appreciate it and appreciate your time so very much. And thank you for all of your hard work.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, everyone.
Thank you. So do the folks on this call want to take a 5-minute break before our next item? I wouldn't mind doing so, but if you guys would rather just move on ahead, that's fine with me too.
5 minutes sounds good to me.
Is that okay, Ms. Lecky and Ms. Almondral, if we do so?
It's your meeting, yes, of course.
Okay, all right. Okay, then let's take a 5-minute break. And so the time on my computer here is 7:27. So we'll come back at 7:32. Thank you. So it looks like we're all back. I'm not seeing Ms. Almondral back yet. Should we give it another minute? Oh, there you are. Okay. So then, staff, are we okay to resume now? Okay. So then on to our next item, which is selection of a new chair, since James Payne has departed in his role as chair. And perhaps a new commissioner to the Transportation Decarbonization Subcommittee, as he was the only one on that subcommittee, as far as I understand it. Any clarifying questions from the EQC before we take public comment? Commissioner Price?
Thank you. My clarifying question is, so I understand that we're discussing a chair and a member of the Transportation Decarbonization Subcommittee. My other question is, when do we gain another commissioner? Is that, when would that occur?
Ms. Lucky, would you, I'm curious about that as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Price and Vice Chair Evans. Yes, so from my understanding, the recruitment should be occurring now. So we probably can expect a commissioner in the first quarter of 2022. And then for chair and vice chair elections typically occur, I want to say April timeframe, March, April. Oh, now? now. There's a regular period. And I don't know if we're a little bit offbeat on that. We are. Oh, please do remind me, Commissioner.
So no problem. Due to the pandemic and other factors, we had our meetings stopped for a little while, so we got a little off track. It had been the May, April timeframe, and it had kind of moved to August. So I believe like July, August was the first meeting that James took over as the chair. So that was my comment.
Okay, so I think we're going to follow our original protocol of electing chair and vice chair in March, April timeframe. I know we were off, but we'll get back on that cycle. So for this agenda item, I think it's just important to note that whoever is chair or vice chair, that we would be doing this in a few months. And it can be the same people again. It's completely up to the EQC. I just want to let you know that process. So thanks, Commissioner Price, for asking about the process and what's upcoming.
So do you, Rebecca, excuse me, Ms. Lucky, do you know if staff have released that opening then for the other commissioner, for a potential new commissioner? Is that application?
Let me check.
I don't believe it has, although maybe I've just missed it.
Yeah, I did talk to the city clerk in November about it because there are other vacancies. Normally there's we wait if there's just one, but because there are quite a few vacancies across the commissions, she was going to start recruiting, but I just need to follow up.
Okay, thank you. So then if there aren't any more clarifying questions, Ms. Almondral, do we have any public comment on this item?
Thank you, Vice Chair Evans. We do not appear to have public comment at the moment. Just as a reminder, this is public comment for item D3, the selection of a new chair and commissioner or commissioners to the Transportation Decarbonization Subcommittee. If you wish to give public comment on this item, please engage that raised hand feature now. Last call for public comment on item D3. There are no public comments. I return the meeting to you, Vice Chair Evans.
Thank you. So now we'll open it to discussion amongst our commission. I'll say I'm happy to stay on in the role of vice chair if folks are comfortable with that. I don't know if there is an assumption that the vice chair move forward into the chair role. I think, yeah, I mean, to be completely frank, I think right now, I actually, believe it or not, would prefer not to, just because, especially between now and April, which is when we typically have these, my plate is quite full. One, because for the time that I've allocated in my life to EQC, I am really trying to focus on and taking on a bunch of building electrification work, and really want to make sure that I can prioritize my working time for that. And then also have a number of commitments with my young children. And it would be helpful, I suppose, at least at this moment in time, to have my evenings free. And I know that in the chair role, they're infrequent, but there are occasional presentations that the chair needs to give to council. And evenings can sometimes be a tricky time for me. And I make this monthly meeting work, but taking on more might not be the best thing for me between now and April, and I could reconsider at that time. But so I guess my preference, that's a very long-winded way of saying my preference, would be for somebody else to take on the role of chair, at least temporarily or for a while. So I'll open that up.
Is there anyone else who would consider stepping forward as chair?
I know Commissioner Price, you did it for many, many years, so I can't, you, and yeah. Anyone else?
I laugh. Oh, sorry. Is it okay if I talk?
Yes. No, I meant when I said, of course, absolutely. When I meant you've done it for many years, I don't think anyone expects you to take it on again. You've, unless you're wanting to, because you've clearly given that commitment over and over again, and we all appreciate that. So thank you.
You're welcome. I think I'm curious who else has desire, appetite, etc. for it. So I'm curious for that. I think obviously of everybody on the EQC right now, I think I'm the person that has that experience, and I also recognize that. But I am curious to see what other folks' interest is, and I certainly wouldn't, if my experience can be helpful, that's great, but I certainly would not want to take on a long-term commitment, just because I also think the commission should have other leadership in that role. But I understand James's sudden departure was unexpected.
Thank you.
I'm not considering it at this time for various reasons.
Well, seems like if I jump in here and say I'm not considering it either, then that just leaves Tom. So
Also, Commissioner London, who, sorry, my dog is barking in the background, who I believe has been in the chair role before, correct? And though she's probably not available until 8:15 tonight, at which point our meeting is most likely not going to be in session anymore. So,
right.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's something we could put off until she shows up. I'll just say from my own point of view, I think if I had to, I could do it, but I really feel strongly that that I am not the best person for that role. I don't have the expertise that some other members of this commission have, and I'm not sure I would feel comfortable being
So I would like to ask Ryan. Ryan, it's a shorter, it sounds like what I heard you say was you would maybe be willing to step in because you've done it before and you don't have the learning curve to step in and do it until April. If that's the case, I would welcome that. Although I don't want to preclude Tom, although I know from talking to Tom offline that he really doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So, but Tom, feel free to jump in.
I would second welcoming Commissioner Price back into the role.
The other thing we could consider is there's a lot of noise in my home right now. Okay, dog and a child coming in, and so forgive that, please. Is we could put this off until January if we wanted to consult with Commissioner London, so that Commissioner Price isn't put on the spot.
I would, I don't want to put Ryan on the spot either, but Janelle's also done it. I haven't not sensed eagerness on her part. So, and I would rather the commission, I think it's an important time for the commission to have some leadership. So I wouldn't want to delay it for another month if it's a possibility, but then I don't also want to make Ryan feel like there's no choice here. So
I guess I'll add to, perhaps because I'm feeling a bit guilty, is that I am, so when I took on the commissioner role, I sort of, I'm allocating big chunks of my week, particularly when the kids are in school, to the building electrification work, and feel like there are a number of potential exciting pilots and projects that we're doing. And I guess I'm really excited about that. And I feel like there's a lot of work to be done. And I also know that I have a finite amount of time, as we all do. And so I just really want to make sure that I can prioritize my time, especially with also being a parent of young children. So that's, I guess, why I'm at where I'm at.
Ryan's got her hand up.
Oh, excuse me, Commissioner Price.
No problem. So I think what I recall from the last time we had this conversation with Janelle was that or Commissioner London rather, was that she would be the vice chair, but she would not be the chair. She did not want to be the chair again. So that, if that's helpful, I'm happy to do it. I think the assumption I would make would be that it would be just a short duration until we could get on the regular cadence and sort of just replace James for the rest of his regular scheduled appointment. And I don't think anybody should feel guilty. I think everybody has areas of expertise, and this, happens to be mine, and that's okay. So please don't feel guilty. I was laughing also because I have a lot of dogs, and for whatever reason, they're all quiet tonight. And I was really very grateful for that. But yeah, so nobody should feel guilty in any respect. And I think if we think that that's the best thing to do, then I'm happy to do it. And we can just move to a regular schedule at the April or May meeting, whichever one it turned out to be.
Okay, well, thank you, Commissioner Price, for being so gracious and for being willing to step into that when you've already given so much of your leadership time already. I know that precedes my time on EQC, so thank you. I really appreciate it. I imagine all of us here do appreciate that as well. So please know that there's a lot of gratitude. Okay, so then.
Do we have to move or vote or?
I believe so.
Okay, I move to appoint Commissioner Price as chair of the EQC.
Second.
And so now do we take a vote?
Yes, so the motion is to appoint Chair Price as chair. The motion was made by Commissioner Gellard and seconded by Commissioner Cabot. Roll call vote to follow. Commissioner Elkins?
Yes.
Vice Chair Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Gellert,
Yes.
Commissioner Cabot,
Yes.
Commissioner Price,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay, so then we move to our last item, which are reports and announcements from staff or commissioners. Does staff or commissioners have any report outs at this time?
I can do a report out. So November 30th, I think, Commissioner Cabot and I conducted a class through the Menlo Park Library on building electrification, and I think there were something like 27 attendees. So we spent about an hour kind of explaining what are the different steps in electrification. It was fairly well attended. We also gave another class the next day, which was a 3-hour class through PG&E's training center. That was one of their best attended trainings in the home performance ever. So 158 people from mostly California, but there were some people from other parts of the country attended the class, and it was very technical about how to electrify your home and avoid a panel upgrade. So, and that will be available via video. They're working on it now. So that will be something that we can circulate in the community.
Thank you, Commissioner Gaylord and Commissioner Cabot, for doing those. Does anyone else have any report outs? I'll just say that one of the pilots that we're working on with Block Power that I mentioned in a previous EQC meeting is moving forward really well. And in fact, there's a meeting tomorrow to discuss potential annual savings. And this is a nonprofit called Haven House, which is part of the Life Moves nonprofit, and it provides homeless shelter and sort of services to families who are homeless or in transition, including families with children. And they've been very eager to move forward, and it's moving forward efficiently and effectively. So I will continue to keep you posted on that, and of course the other pilots that I had briefly described earlier. Commissioner Gaylord?
One more. So the other commissioners may be aware that the city of Ithaca passed a commitment to become to decarbonize or electrify all of the buildings in the city. So this is Ithaca, New York, where Cornell University is located, by 2030. So electrify all buildings by 2030. And a couple of us did the building decarbonization subcommittee did a call along with some others with the kind of Rebecca's counterpart in Ithaca about how that program is structured. So it's $100 million program where private capital is being raised, and they're providing full electrification services at a 2% interest rate for a large segment of the population, and then a 0% interest rate up to 16-year loan for that full electrification of the building, 0% interest rate for their low income population. So it's very exciting, very unique way to structure a program like this. But just to let you know that we're learning more about it, and we'll keep the committee updated. And at some point we may, want to have some more formal presentation about it.
Thank you for including that, Commissioner Gaylord. And Commissioner Cabot?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to share with other commissioners that a couple of weeks ago, the city of Half Moon Bay took a very bold move forward in setting a new standard for electrification codes. They adopted their first REACH code to be all electric new construction, and then also a very clearly defined remodel code about what happens when you remodel or add on to your house. and the electrification required there, as well as setting a date for the end of gas flow in their territory to give planning certainty to the residents and businesses there so that they can be choosing their equipment in order to not strand their assets. And so that's the first city I've heard of that has set an end of flow. Well, except maybe Los Altos Hills, although I forget the exact structure of Los Altos Hills commitment on that. Anyway, it's great to see other cities around us making these bold moves and putting more tools on the table for ways that communities can decarbonize and giving us examples to work on. Then on a separate matter, it sounds like the community choice energy agencies around us, Peninsula Clean Energy and Silicon Valley Clean Energy, they're both looking at putting together a very solid offering of a basic plan for Reach Code 2.0 to be worked on mostly in 2022 and adopted towards the later part of 2022, becoming effective 2023. And that's needed because all of us cities who've adopted REACH codes, our REACH codes expire at the end of 2022, and we won't have one anymore unless we go through the process of adopting another one. And I know staff sees that on the calendar and knows to be planning for that, whatever work level there will be. And hopefully Peninsula Clean Energy can make that smooth for us by putting together a strong package that is easily adoptable.
Thank you, Commissioner Cabot. Ms. Lucky.
Thank you. So I've got a couple of updates. So on Tuesday, the council did the reorganization. So Mayor Nash is now the mayor, and we have a Vice Mayor Willison. So just in case you missed the meeting, that's the reorganization. An additional item related to the CAP is so there's a City Council CAP subcommittee. So Mayor Nash and Vice Mayor Willison are on that. So, but there's another subcommittee forming that it consists of Mayor Nash and Councilmember Taylor for CAP number 6, climate adaptation and resiliency. So just to let you know that there is one City Council subcommittee for CAPs 1 through 5 strategy goals, and then for number 6, it's Nash and Taylor. And so another announcement is we are steadily working to get the award for the renewable microgrid for the Menlo Park Community Campus project. So we're getting closer, inching forward towards it. And so I don't know if you recall, but back in October, we had a study session with the council asking them if they wanted to utilize a power purchase agreement versus a direct buy, and they directed staff to pursue the direct buy. So we brought forward the price tag, and I think a couple of council members had it's a very expensive project, but it also is going to save over the long term. So we're trying to kind of work out and make sure we nail down what those cost savings are. And then all the other technical aspects and service needs that we'll need over the 20 years of the agreement. So we hope to kind of finalize that and bring it forward on January 11th. And then also on January 11th, we're hoping to bring forward the resiliency position. Things got a little shuffled around with the agenda, so moving that forward. And then the other item too is on CAP number 5 and looking at deeper technical expertise to really kind of launch the city into what's your decarbonization plan over the next 10 years, or well, it's not even 10 years, we're down to 8 now. So as far as fleet, landscaping equipment, everything else, how do we get there, and how do we get there in a cost-effective way? So we're looking to hopefully contract with Optimi to kind of look at that. They've worked with Fremont Police Department on their fleet electrification kind of plan, and they're currently working with Palo Alto as well. They've worked with the numerous Bay Area cities on projects like these. So what we'll probably doing is, we will be doing is transitioning because we've had Chris Starkey helping us with CAP number 5. And we've just recognized that we really need some deeper technical expertise in developing a plan that we can both work with internally to communicate and externally as well. So that's a plan over the next 6 months and moving that forward. And then we've got a meeting with the council CAP subcommittee on CAP number 1 and also the EQC building decarb subcommittee on January 13th. And so we'll be looking at kind of what are the next steps, what's the status on some of the things that we've been working on. We did put out, I think I mentioned the last meeting, we had an electrification survey released. We're going to send out those results. Actually, let's send them to the entire EQC if it's not, I think everybody would want to see that. So I'll do that too this week. We had a lot of participation from property owners, not so much from the design and contractors. So it was a little disappointing, but we did get a lot of very good information, I think, to work from on next steps, and also looking on the horizon about the Reach Code 2.0. So having those conversations too.
Thank you, Ms. Lucky. Appreciate all of those updates. Actually, as you were talking, I realized that since we were all, this is my fault, we didn't select anyone to the Transportation Decarbonization Subcommittee, but I wonder if we could move that to January, if people are okay with that, especially since you mentioned that there's the new subcommittee with Mayor Nash and Councilmember Taylor on climate mitigation and adaptation, that maybe there's an opportunity there for anyone who's interested on this commission to join that as well. So maybe we could group those two together for January. How do people feel about that?
I would agree. Let's move it. And there already is a adaptation subcommittee. I don't remember who's on it, but I mean, within the EQC.
Interesting. Okay.
I think maybe Ryan and or Leah. I can't remember.
It's both of us. That's according to my notes from last year. Yes, the Climate Adaptation Committee consists of myself and Chair Price.
Yeah, that was obviously my vague recollection too. So yeah, I'm fine bumping the discussion about the transportation subcommittee to the next meeting.
Okay.
If others are, I'm seeing some nods.
Does that feel acceptable, Ms. Lucky and Ms. Almendral, from a staff perspective?
Yes, yeah, and it is, you're correct, Commissioner Elkins. It's yourself and Commissioner Price, created January 2021 for Climate Adaptation Subcommittee.
So that's great news that there's now a council level subcommittee to match our subcommittee, I think.
At some point, time permitting, I may be eager to join the two of you on that as well.
So I had one other thing.
Yes.
Some new rebates became available like a week or two ago from the state that bumps up the rebate for a water heater from roughly $2,000, a heat pump water heater from roughly $2,000 to $3,000. And implements a new rebate for heat pump space heaters of $3,000. So generally in the market, we see, a $6,000 to $7,000 difference between a gas furnace and a heat pump, sometimes lower, sometimes higher. So this would cover $3,000 of that difference. And that's through the statewide tech program, TECH. Don't ask me what the acronym stands for, but some good news.
That is good news.
Is there a way to bundle them with the rebates?
Yes, in terms of administration, they're using all the existing, like Bayran. They're just, yes, they've coordinated that.
So if you So if someone applies to either Bayron or it's automatically applied, or do you have to apply to different?
I think that there may be a separate form,
Okay.
but that the contractors are like already being onboarded into that new program and being familiarized with it. But there's no extra requirements, if that makes sense, for the
Yeah,
additional
that's
money.
If you have any information, could you forward it to Candace and I? Because we're just about to upload the web page. And so we just want to make sure we have the most accurate information about rebates
Yes.
and how to obtain them. Because we are getting calls. Not a lot, but I get people asking.
Yeah, I'll loop in PCE because they may know the nuances of, you know, I know statewide the program launched, but they may know the nuances of like locally.
Mhm.
Did it already launch? Is it launching in a week or whatever? So
Okay,
I'll loop them in.
that's exciting. Thank you for sharing that.
Any other report outs? Okay, so then we can move to adjournment. Do I formally adjourn the meeting then?
Yes.
Okay, I thereby formally adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for your participation.
All right,
Thank you,
Thank
Angela, for
you.
leading.
Thank you.
Have a good
Yeah.
night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.